Welcome to The Soul's Journey with your host, Tracy Escobar. The Soul's Journey tells the story of everyday people who overcome life's toughest lessons and want to use their voice to share and give hope to others walking a similar path. These are stories of hope, stories of healing, stories of empowerment. So now, please welcome the host of The Soul's Journey, Tracy Escobar.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to The Soul's Journey. I can't believe we're back again. It's already Friday. I'm super excited for today's show, and I hope that you are too. I am your host, Tracy Escobar. I'm an evidential medium based out of Dallas, Texas, and this is The Soul's Journey on Bold Brave TV Network. And today we're going to talk all about addiction. That's today's topic, and the grasp of addiction and the journey of addiction. And not everybody makes it out of that journey, but some people do. And some people heal from addiction, and some people get over addiction, and some people walk a life past addiction. And so that's what I wanted to talk about today. And I have a really special guest, and I'm going to read a little bit of her bio before we bring her beautiful face on. But she knows all about addiction, and she's walked that journey, and she's willing to share it with us and with you today, hoping to give everybody some hope about addiction, because it can affect everybody. It can affect your family, your friends, yourself. So it's not like a single thing that someone just experiences. It bleeds on to so many different relationships. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that, but I'm going to read her bio really quick. And so apologize for reading first, but here's a little bit about Lulu. Many people believe that the best kind of learning is through experience. And that is exactly how Lulu became the highly regarded, relatable, and compassionate holistic therapist that she is today. At her lowest point, she was an IV meth, heroin, cocaine user who cannot get through a few hours without a fix. The kind of disconnection from self that addiction led her down was also filled with emotional, physical, sexual abuse, suicide attempts, some near-death experiences, multiple psychiatric and treatment center admissions, and legal troubles. Her story also includes marriage, divorce, same-sex relationships, motherhood, postpartum depression, unethical boundary violations from her own therapist, and then navigating cultural differences. Healing through these numerous personal challenges has given Lulu a unique perspective on life, the soul's journey, and an unparalleled ability to hold sacred space for many clients with deep emotional wounds. So much we have in common, so I want to bring on Lulu. Come on, Lulu. Everybody, welcome, Lulu. Hey,
Thank
beautiful.
You. Hi, beautiful. Thank you so much.
Hi. Thank you for coming on. It's such a hard topic. So when I started this show, I thought everyone would be an open book like I am. I'm an open book, right? Ask me, I'm going to tell you. I don't have secrets. I'll tell you. I have a hard time lying, so I'm just going to say it, right? And I thought more people would be like that. But God, it is so crazy what shame is still tied to people's trauma. I find that amazing.
Well, and sometimes, it's like I always say, like we share our own experiences, but because I had an experience of something, I'm not necessarily saying the people that are involved did anything to me, right?
No,
And that's
right.
really hard for people to grasp. Yeah, for
It
sure.
is. It is for sure. So thank you, number one, for agreeing to come on.
Thank
Number
you.
two, for being vulnerable and raw, and let's share it. And I know we
Yes.
talked earlier this week about how we wanted this episode to go. And so I think we're just going to kick it off with addiction. And before I even got on, I wanted to kind of pull some stats, because it's been a while since I've researched anything. Like, I'm flabbergasted at the amount of people who do illicit drugs in the United States, like 61 million people. Isn't that
Yeah.
a crazy phenomenon? Like,
Yeah.
it's crazy. And then I wanted to say, well, how much is inheritable? How much, because I don't know if we'll talk about this segment too. How much is it a disease? How much is it inherited? How much, like, right? And so I wanted to pull the stats on and how much of it's inheritable. And it was really amazing. Alcohol is 50% inheritable, but other drugs, over 70% comes from your family
Mhm.
genetics and DNA. Not always, but I find that fascinating too. And I have a story to tell on my
Yeah.
personal self about that. But kick it off. What do you know about addiction?
Well, I
What?
mean, I think it's multi-layered. I like to reframe it that the story of addiction is not really about the drugs or whatever the object of choice is. It really is a story of every person's addiction is about how we cope with pain, right? Universally, a core part of addiction is the inability that, that life is unbearable. It's unbearable to be present in your life. Most people are hiding extraordinary amounts of pain. Add in all the thinking about it. There's shame, there's regret, there's judgment, self-punishment, and nobody, like we kind of joke, picks up the drug, the drink or whatever and says, oh, you know what, I'm going to do this and become an addict or an alcoholic.
Be an
Like,
addict.
it doesn't
Right?
start like that, right? It starts like, oh,
No.
maybe this is fun. Oh, maybe it's a casual escape. Okay, maybe a little more coping. And then what's so hard is because then you have the pain underneath. Then you have the drugs, which actually affect your physiology and your brain. So it jacks with your reward system. And when your reward system and your body's jacked up, it jacks with your nervous system, which is already jacked up, which then affects how you relate to others. So then it becomes a relational issue. So it's multi-layered, and why healing is not just about removing the drink, the drug, the phone, the shopping, or whatever it is, right? You got to
Why it's
get
so
down.
difficult. You're
Yeah.
right, down to the root, right? Down to the root of the problem, right?
Yeah.
They say, I was trying to look it up, like causes. Like, I know my cause. I can go down and kind of look. And I wasn't addicted to like hardcore stuff. I've always been like one of those. I don't know about you, but I was very functional, very functional. I'm a high performing and high functional person. And so doing mine, it was all sneaky, right? I was very sneaky because I didn't want anybody to know. And it was kind of just a secret I was having with myself because it was the one thing I could control. Isn't that the weirdest thing? So mine came
Right.
from trauma, pain, and control. I could control it. And that became the games to control so no one knew. So it was
Right.
really interesting for me. But I was going to look and what are some causes? Genetics, environment, trauma, some mental issues, some brain changes are kind of what the tops. What do you think? Pain? Is that your main?
Pain, I see it as trauma, right? I mean, there is,
Yeah,
I'm sure
pain and
you've heard of
trauma.
Gaber Mate. I mean, he's a really well-known addiction specialist, and really, there's a huge link between addiction and childhood trauma, right? And I don't view trauma as necessarily something like big that happened. Trauma
Traumatic.
is anything that is overwhelming our system that we cannot handle all the time, right? It's a disconnection from the self, from the present,
Yes.
right?
So like an
And
irregulated nervous system. So something
exactly.
like maybe living with someone who's a yeller and it made you freak, like, I don't
Right,
know,
and so it
trying to
felt dangerous, right? I needed to leave, or
dangerous.
I couldn't
Yes.
even be accepted, and you
Right.
see that this is actually a universal issue. People don't need addiction to experience this conundrum of life, right?
Right. Right.
So why a lot of us in recovery, if you really view the addiction journey as a true blessing, because it really is this that had forced me to examine this aspect of life, right? Like, what is it that's making it so painful to be in life, right? To experience life. Yeah.
When was your first consumption of a drug? How old were you?
Probably as a
20 years.
kid, because you have those families,
Yeah.
which my family was like, "Oh my God, you're a kid. You want to try this beer, right?" So it's sort of this
Yeah.
funny thing, right? And you're like, "Yeah."
Yes.
And my dad, now is a retired oral surgeon, and so before narcotics was a thing, he used to have like narcotics in his office, nitrous, and so I was just one of those kids. Like, I felt like this world was my playground, and kind of just like, what's this? What's that? Very curious, and so it's like, oh, this
Yeah.
kind of makes you feel weird, and it definitely wasn't like I'm escaping something when I'm little, right? It was just like,
No.
blah, 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 right?
And nobody in your family, immediate family, was an addict or anything?
No, I mean, if anything, maybe there was over drinking, but again, this is
Okay.
part of like my story because I come from a Chinese culture, and there's a lot of sort of like image presentation, right? Harmony, not wanting to disrupt the collective experience, right? So kind of just keep things to yourself. It's not a culture that, I don't know about now, but just growing up, that really expressed emotions a lot, right? Because
You did it right.
logically, right, like emotions, they can lead us astray in our thinking, right? So
Okay.
yeah,
So
so
that
a
came
lot of
about
stuff,
culturally for you.
yeah, a lot of
Yeah.
stuff shoved down,
Okay. Okay.
yeah.
Do you remember how old were you when that changed for you? When it became more of did it? Okay. Here's a question. So I'm trying to gather my like. I just want this to go so natural, but so I have so many questions in my head. Was there a gateway drug, like they all say? Was there something you started with and it just kind of progressed?
No, I mean, I think it's life, like I definitely started off with like drinking, right? Then it's like,
Drinking. Okay.
smoking marijuana all the time, right? Then you kind of like
Yeah.
somebody there has acid, then you do a little bit of acid, then somebody has
Yeah.
cocaine. And then, for me, like the real point that I felt like it was really a problem is when I went into like the harder drugs, when it started to be like,
Okay.
meth, right? Heroin. And then, of course, we kind of talked about when I started injecting, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that will take you downhill very fast. And you don't see a lot of old junkies, right? I mean, you
Oh.
don't make it. It's really a struggle to get clean and sober from that.
And do we wonder why some make it, some don't? I think it's just, we talked about that too the other day. Is like, okay, like why do some people die from COVID and some people don't? Why do some people make it through addiction? Some people don't, right? This is the
Because
soul's
again, it's
journey.
so multi-layered, right? Because you have the
Oh,
pain, and then you have the drugs, and then you have your relationships, and you ruin a lot of relational relationships in addiction. And so then it makes the environment very hard to heal in, right? They do say you can
sure.
heal everywhere, and I do believe that, but sometimes environments really do make a big difference,
Like who
right?
you're around, right? If it's
Who you're
just next door,
around.
if it's down the street, right?
Right, right.
You
And so
really
it
have to
makes
push
it
yourself.
really hard to recover. And sometimes the physical aspect also makes it hard because it's not like, you have a what is it called when you're getting off of drugs?
Withdrawal.
Withdrawal. Yeah, you have like withdrawal symptoms, right? And
Physical.
especially if you're physical withdrawals. And
Yeah.
that oftentimes actually makes people not be able to do it because it is so painful.
So painful. And I'm just right now I'm going through a physical withdrawal from an antidepressant. So for all of you who don't
Yeah.
know, I am of that age, and my doctor gave me an antidepressant for hot flashes. I don't know why, but that is the way the normal doctors do it right now. And they give you an antidepressant. Well, it's such a strong antidepressant. I am having struggles coming off of that thing,
Right.
withdrawals like crazy. And I just can't. I got to go have another one because I just can't go
Yeah.
through withdrawal. Yeah.
Right. And the
So
physical
same.
pain
The
is unbearable. I
physical.
mean, if you take
Yeah.
some methamphetamine, for example, right, you're flooding your brain with a ton of dopamine. And so when you come
Dopamine.
off of it, it's like you are just so depressed, so lethargic.
Yeah.
Heroin and numbs everything. So then you end up feeling everything when you're coming off of, right? You know what? Here's a funny
Dude.
story is my eyes actually got better because I was on so many drugs that my eyes become very pinpoint. And I remember going to the doctor after I got clean and sober, and they're like, "Your eyes improved. This is miraculous. Like we don't usually see this." And I'm like, "That's because I'm not on drugs the whole time and it's not pinpoint."
How
It's really
crazy is
funny.
that? It is funny. And when we go back and look at stuff, it's super funny. One of the
Yeah.
drugs of choice that I love, so I was never a hard drug person. I've experimented a lot. I grew up in the 80s. I experimented. I'm not
Yeah.
going to say I didn't. Um, and I'm not against a lot of stuff. And that'll go into like, should this be illegal? Should it not be illegal? My problem came from a back injury. So when my back
Mm.
went out, they put me on hydrocodone. They put me on nerve blockers. They put me on Ambien
Yeah.
for because I could not sleep because I was in so much pain all the time. And the really interesting part for me is one day I took Ambien to go to bed and something happened and I couldn't go to bed. And so I had to fight it to stay awake to deal with whatever I was dealing with. And I became addicted to the blackout. I
Mhm.
enjoyed the next day, not understanding what happened the day before. It was just so the weirdest thing in my head, right? And then it became a game for me. It's like, wow, I wonder if I can make that happen again. Wow, I wonder if I,
Right.
and then, right? And then all of a sudden I'm doing Ambien all day and I'm driving on it, I'm having accidents on it. And like, so then it became a problem, right? But
Yeah.
that's how it was for me. One little thing that my brain hooked onto,
Right.
and then it kind of just went from there. What was your favorite
My
drug?
favorite. What my
Favorite
favorite?
drug?
I don't know if there's a favorite drug. I mean, it's like, what is the joke that you only get high once because after that, it's like you're just chasing something.
Tasting it.
I mean, at
Yeah.
the end, it really was. I remember I had a friend kind of joke. It's like, you take this to go up, you take this to go down. It's like, when are you ever normal? It's like, because my body ended up needing it. And so it wasn't even favor anymore. It was just to not feel bad, right?
Right. And not to be sick anymore, right?
Not to be sick. Exactly.
To be up, you take an upper, you got to go to sleep. I'm going to take a downer just to get some sleep,
Mhm.
right? So it's this habitual cycle you guys just get in. Me
Right.
too, right? I even got in it. Even hydrocodones. my
Right.
body reacts differently. I get energy from hydros instead of crashing.
Right.
So it's like the total opposite. I was taking hydros and then I was taking Ambien, and then so it just
Mhm.
became this dance we do. So even just with pills and an addiction, and even getting onto it by accident through injury. So I think it's super fascinating. And people take, I'm reading comments too from TikTok. Mary Jane, environment is everything. Yeah, everything, and even marijuana. As I can get on this ramp too, because it's becoming legal more and more. It's not legal where we're at. We live in the Texas area. We're the most conservative state, one of them. So it's going to be a while before it's legal here. But more and more states are becoming legal, and so it's becoming okay, just kind of like alcohol. Okay, I want to talk about that. What are your thoughts about that? We have 30
About
seconds to go to break, so I might
well,
have
I
to do
think
this on the
something.
next section.
Well, if we frame it as this addiction, is something that's painful, that's trying to take you out of the present moment.
Right.
Like anything can be addictive. You know what I mean? So I can't say like
Mhm.
blanket, this is bad. If I
True.
could be a weekend casual cocaine user, hell, all the power to.
Why not?
I don't mean that, but
So
I
it's the
kind of mean that.
addiction. It's not the thing, right?
Right. It's the
So we can
thinking, it's the
it's the
obsession, it's the doing
thing
something when it's, then it becomes something that grabs a hold of you,
grasp
your
you.
mind. Yes.
That's that's
That's the addiction.
that's a good point because there's the addiction. So even like I'm going to take a break because I could talk about this all day long. So you're watching Bull Brave TV, The Soul's Journey. We'll be right back after this message.
What if there were a super tiny device that could diagnose the brain and is smaller than a single human hair? What if you could see inside the brain to help an epilepsy patient during surgery or to help the fight against Parkinson's disease? Dr. Patricia Broderick is proud to announce the Broderick Probe, a biomedical and electronic breakthrough. Imagine a probe to help with the understanding and potential cure of brain-related diseases. To learn more, listen live to the Easy Sense radio show with host Dr. Broderick, Wednesdays 7 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave Media Network and TuneIn Radio. And to help support the Broderick Foundation, please go to EasySense.com and learn how, with your help, we can fight these horrific brain disorders. That's EasySense.com to learn more and help support the Broderick Foundation. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them. Rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies. Find settings that allow them to be the most productive and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
Well, welcome back. I am Tracy Escobar, evidential psychic medium, and this is The Soul's Journey right here on Bold Brave TV Network. And we are speaking with Lulu. Come on back, Miss Lulu. Before we went to break, we were talking about addiction, and you hit home with how I believe, and I could never formulate the answer, but I believe what you believe. It's not the person, not the thing, it's the addiction, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a part of my healing, I had struggles with alcohol. Not that I have personal struggles with alcohol, but I was raised through an alcoholic. So alcohol and a lot of my trauma comes from alcohol. And so for me, I always saw alcohol as an issue. And in my relationships, I would so get triggered with people who love to drink, right? And so although I want to be that fun person, when someone else is doing that fun and I don't have control over it, it's very triggering, right? Because things happen to me because of alcohol. And so I'm in my new relationship, and and through all the healing I've done, I was still getting triggered and I couldn't figure out why. And it finally, I don't know if spirit finally gave me this download or it just finally clicked in my brain. And they said, Tracy, it's not the alcohol, it's the person. that drinks it. It's their issue. It's their addiction. It's how they behave, right? So I was attaching the alcohol as the issue, afraid that my person was going to show traits because they were drinking, right? And no, it's the person.
Well, it's
It's
also
how they
part of your
behave.
nervous system, how your
Yeah,
nervous system got wired when you had those experiences in the past. Yeah.
right. So if he's not giving me any reason to be triggered, why am I triggering, right?
Right.
So having to go rethink that and relearn that was a really big thing for me. So if I could help someone by saying that, it's just because someone has a drink of alcohol doesn't make them an abuser, I guess, right?
Mhm.
It becomes
Right.
part of their thing, their physiology and who they are, how they think, how it affects their brain. So there's so much more into it. So I love how
Mhm.
you put that. But it's the addiction and what it causes to our central nervous system, what it causes to our
Yes.
brain,
Yes.
right?
So that's what trauma does, right? And so why I love, and what we'll talk about this later about
Yeah,
healing, is why I'm so focused on nervous system regulation
right,
and the nervous system, right? How the felt sense of it, right? Because it's like,
right.
something as simple as a parent like coming home from work and having to cook dinner, and a kid saying, "Oh my God, look at this picture," and the parent's like, "Listen, I'm cooking dinner." That innocent interaction could feel like abandonment. It could feel like neglect. It could feel like not being worthy. You see, so it's about attunement to our nervous systems and like how our felt sense was in our body, right? So if you
And
have
that's
an experience with people in your body, right, when we get triggered, what's actually happening in our body is like it really believes it's in the past. So all of the chemicals come up, right? And we kind of like, even logically, we're like, well, this person has never hurt me, but inside your body, you're having this different experience, right? So we cannot even, to go off on a tangent and go through our healing journey with just this logical, sensical thing. We have to come into our bodies, right? And be with our emotions.
I had a guest on the other day, and her tagline quote is "Get out of your head, get back into your body." Right?
Right,
Get into
right.
your body, figure it out,
Good.
figure out what's going on. Yeah, I love
Yeah.
that about that, and it's so true. And it kind of I've been sitting with this whole theory of realities and how so many of us live in a different reality because there's things that are going on in my life, and I look at it like that's not my reality, and I can't believe that's your
Yeah.
reality either. If we're both in the same reality, so we live in different realities within ourselves and in our brains and in our nervous
Yeah,
systems, right?
even when you asked me to do the show, and I was like, well, let me kind of revisit my story, because it's like I don't really remember it. I think I
Yeah.
remember it best when I'm sitting in front of somebody else that is going through a similar pain, right? Then I'm like,
Mhm.
oh yeah,
Oh
I know, I've
yeah, I
been
remember.
there. But like when I look back on it and I kind of think about it, I'm like, it's hard for me to identify. It feels like a totally different lifetime, like a totally different dimension.
Yeah,
I can't even like
I can't even
fathom
think that way anymore.
thinking that occurred, right? I read my old letters and I'm like, man, who is this person?
Mhm.
That was so
Mhm.
dark about everything. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just fascinating. So I'd love to talk about your healing too in segment 3, but right now I want to talk about your story, and because what led you from being that casual user, whatever, to getting
Yeah.
into the depths of your trauma. And I want to show all of my listeners, like, you were in the dark place of trauma. And so, Brandon, go ahead and bring her picture on. And this is Lulu at the depths of her addiction.
That is
Now, is
such
that
a
hard
great
to look at?
picture. It's
That
it's
is
not
her.
um
And how
I,
long ago was that?
this was, God, where was I? I was in California in some hotel room.
Okay. Yay. So that was the
And so it
depth of
was
her.
the depths of my addiction, because yeah, like
Of Brandon.
at the end, I did not have a single vein left in my body. You know, and
Wow.
and even when I went to the hospital, right? And so some of my story, just in the summary, is like I've tried to take my life 7 times in my life, right? And so 3 times I had to be revived, right? And I remember in the hospital, like they couldn't, I think they ended up finding some like weird vein like over here or something, because it was so bad. I had like just open wounds everywhere. I remember even going, when I went to the rehabs, like the nurses were like shocked because they had never seen something so bad, right? So that was my arm. So it was all over my legs too,
Oh
right?
my gosh.
My
Oh,
arms, my legs. And how that is insanity, right? You cannot you look like this and you still need
I
it.
still do it. Yeah.
And for a long time, I mean, I have sleeve tattoos everywhere. I turned it into something beautiful, but like I would wear a long sleeve because then you have the shame of it, right?
Mhm.
I mean, that's a lot of stuff on your arms.
That's a
you know?
lot. That is a
Yeah.
lot. Tell me what took you there. Like, what got you to that point?
Well, like I said, I don't think anything was ever conscious, right? I mean, I think when the drugs take
Sure.
a hold of you, then they
That's
take
it.
a,
Okay.
and
Okay.
if I kind of want to revisit, childhood pain or something, right? It's really, feeling, I mean, everyone has like a not good enough story. Like where do you not fit into the world? Like where do you not feel understood? And so for me, growing up just culturally, just there was a lot of pressure. There's a lot of pressure on me, and I had so many opportunities, but again, like this misattunement, right? They gave me so many opportunities. I had everything to do, but and they were very well known in the community. So a lot of what I was doing was just performing, right? They'd be like, "Oh, look at my kid; they know how to do this." So I was like, "Okay, right." So I just go and perform, and also shove down your emotions. I was born in Taiwan and came here at a very young age, and
Yeah.
it's different integrating into the culture. I was the first one to speak English, and my clothes looked different, and I kind of instinctually just had this suppression and realized that that was my superpower, right? It's like kind of developing a
Yeah.
tough shell, like, oh, you're not gonna, make fun of me, right?
Mhm.
I was always cry alone, and my parents had to work a lot, and I was home alone a lot, and so
Okay.
that's very terrifying for like a 5-year-old to not know when your parents are going to come back.
But
So
that generation, they did what they had to do,
yeah, they did
right?
what they had to do, right? And and
Yeah.
just kind of like, oh, hey, we got to go to this thing. We're just going to drop you off at our friend's house. They were those parents that were like, we're just going to sneak out of the house and you just play, right? And then you won't
Yeah.
know. There won't be some separation freak out. But really, in my
Yes.
nervous system, like, right, it left me feeling just very alone,
Yeah.
abandoned, right, not considered.
Yeah.
The whole performing thing, like I always felt like I was going to be underprepared because we would just be hanging out. They'll be like, "Oh, look, there's a piano," because I was a classical pianist, right? And I sang, and they were like, "Oh, just go play for our friends here," right? So in my
Oh,
nervous system, it just felt like I was going to be surprised all the time, right? There was so much pressure in my body. The world was going to judge and criticize me because I did all these piano competitions.
right.
Um, so, right, you see, very innocent growing up, and then all of a sudden, like how it felt for me was like the world is dangerous, right? I can't just
Yeah.
be. I need to perform. I need to be on my best, right? I got to suppress my feelings because, well, what if I have to, you know, do a
Yeah.
thing, right?
Yeah. Like creates where we want to live in chaos because is that a normal feeling that we're getting every time we're in this chaos? We get that fear and that feeling. So it's the feeling that our brain gets used to. You
It
think
is it is
it's
a felt sense. Yeah.
replicating?
I mean, that's
Yeah.
why so it's really, I believe, like, like there's one part of our soul that wants to heal. This is why we have repetitive relationship, repetitive behavior, right? It's like the same person in 5 different bodies, right?
Yeah.
Because we
Yeah.
unconsciously have a repetition compulsion, and this is actually psychology, where we just keep repeating things over and over again in the hopes that you're going to take a different choice this next time,
It's gonna be
right?
different this
So
time,
we get
right?
addicted to like the abuse, right? And there's that in my
Oh,
story too, right? Because, oh no, but they love me, right? And so that actually becomes a chemical thing. Is like every time if you're in an abusive relationship and there's some kind of niceness, it's like a hit. So chemically,
yeah.
there's something going on too.
Chemically, yeah. And then you
Right?
forget about all the bad for a second, right? You're like,
I mean, how
oh,
about pregnancy? Like, does anyone ever really remember
remember?
like giving birth? Yeah.
No.
Yes.
Jeez. So you talk about childhood trauma, right? And then we
Mhm.
grow up, right? And there's just pressures of living in life. What came next for you as far as trauma?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's like the trauma just repeats itself. You know what I
Okay.
mean? And
Yeah.
so, yeah, as a kid, did anything to feel different, go to school. I went sent to boarding school because I guess they didn't enjoy the way that I was acting, right? Which led to more pot smoking, more drugs, continued
Right.
throughout college, and that's when it got into relationship drama, a lot of abuse with other
Hmm.
people. And I also found dealing drugs. That was like a real highlight, because then you were
Yeah.
made. You don't realize how
And then you're
popular you
popular.
are. Right,
Yeah.
how popular you are, and
People love you.
you get into all the places. And I think back, it's really
Yeah.
funny. I went to school in Boston, and riding like the T with like a pound of marijuana, like and cocaine in my bag, and I'm like, how this is just ridiculous.
Crazy. It's crazy what we do or what we go through and
But it's about manageability, like you said, right? Because everybody thinks they can manage it until they can't, right? And so I was actually very good at managing for a long time, right? I
Okay.
felt like as long as I got straight A's and I always did well in my studies, I could just do this other thing on the side, right? And
Yeah,
so
like
how
functioning, like I talked about. Yeah.
yeah, it turned out at the end was I was also very depressed, and how I would always exit was taking my life, right? I just couldn't hold it together anymore. That was always the final straw, you know,
Yeah.
7
Why didn't
times. Right?
I was gonna say, why are you still here?
Why am I
Why
still
didn't you
here?
ever succeed? Why didn't you ever succeed?
Yeah, it's divine intervention.
Tell me about it. Yeah, because I know the story. So tell me.
Yeah, I mean, it's divine intervention. I don't, I think on one of the last times that that happened, that I tried to take my life, it was this message, and it was like, you're not gonna die, like you're meant to be here. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember that feeling because I don't really remember a lot of my near death experiences. I just remember being in the hospital, either having some tube in me or just like being in the
Right.
ward, and I'm like, dang, like it didn't work.
Yeah.
And when I got that message, it was like I just knew, and I was just like, fine. Fine,
Fine.
fine,
I'll
life,
be here. You know,
fine.
some people say it's a cry for help. For you, was the intent to really go?
The intent was really go. I'm not one of those that, like, if I'm going to do something, I'll call you and be like, I'm so depressed. Like, I go into the middle of a field, right?
Okay.
There's nobody around. But in all the instances, it was divine intervention. Somebody found me. It was like a
Yeah.
call. Somebody happened to be driving. The one time that I remember I hung myself and I overdosed, the beam broke, and my
No.
coworker happened to want to bring me something that night
Uh-uh.
and found me
Out of the blue, brought
out
you
of the
something and
blue,
found
out
you.
of the blue, right?
So you're meant to be here, right?
So it's like, I'm sure my guides are like, you stubborn
Again.
mother
Stubborn, whatever. Yes. They're like, come on. See, that just
effer.
goes to show if it's meant to be, it's gonna be. Like it's if
Yeah.
you're not meant to go, you're not gonna go. Like, I don't know.
There's no reason. And I ask a lot of people in recovery the same question, like, is there
Yeah.
something? And it's like, it's divine intervention. There's no reason, right?
There's none.
I look
No.
back, there's lots of moments of this divine intervention,
Good.
lots
Because
of
that's why you're probably why you're doing what you're doing, but we're not gonna get there yet. I wanna know though, when was enough for you? When was the enough?
Well, I
When did that
mean,
happen?
the last time that happened, right? So the first time I got clean and sober was when I was in my 20s, right? And then after that, I kind of did the thing of getting married, have children. I was clean and sober, and I do even think being pregnant and having children was a divine intervention too. There was just like
To save your
no
life?
thought of anything, right, in my
Okay.
brain.
Good. Yeah.
A very protective quality. I remember a friend in rehab was like, just pretend you're pregnant all the time or something, because they were
Yes.
protective, right? But
Yes.
I have 4 children, and having 4 children, anyone that has multiple children, it gets exhausting. And I had postpartum depression for all of my children, and it was just really exhausting. It was hard, and my back got injured in one of my deliveries. And so, kind of like you
Yep.
said before, it was this IV drug use, and then all of a
Yeah.
sudden, there was this. I remember it clearly. My youngest was 1, and I was like, I think I need some heroin. And it was such a surprising thought because I hadn't thought about that in like 12 years. Right.
Hmm.
And I was like, well, I
Right.
can't think of that. And so again, our crazy minds, I'm like, I'll just take some painkillers. And then the next thing you know, like, I'm addicted to painkillers. And then I was like, I
Yeah.
need some energy. And then I was addicted to Adderall and all
Adderall.
the
Hmm.
stimulants. And because I'm legally addicted, right?
Yeah, because now it's legal. So now that's not a problem, right? It's
Right. But
crazy.
the thing is that's not what addiction does, right? It almost like grabs you, and then within a year, like I had ended up destroying
It's
my life again,
spiraling.
back down into the dealing, the making it with like
Yep.
criminal activities,
Yeah.
and injecting again. And what's really sad is that like the last time that I actually coded, my kids saw me. They were very young, and
Okay.
someone had found me and called my ex-husband at that time and brought me home. Um, and and so I was just laying on the couch while the ambulance and everybody was coming in to make sure. And then, right, it's a funny story because the last thing I said, I told you about this, last thing I said before I
Let's,
passed on,
yes.
is,
Yes.
could you guys take off your shoes before you come in the house?
See, that
Right?
good stopping point, because we're going to say what that meant for you when we come back.
Yes.
Yeah, so hold that thought, and we'll be right back. You're watching Bold Brave TV, The Soul's Journey, right here on Bold Brave TV Network. We'll be right back.
What if there were a super tiny device that could diagnose the brain and is smaller than a single human hair? What if you could see inside the brain to help an epilepsy patient during surgery or to help the fight against Parkinson's disease? Dr. Patricia Broderick is proud to announce the Broderick Probe, a biomedical and electronic breakthrough. Imagine a probe to help with the understanding and potential cure of brain-related diseases. To learn more, listen live to the Easy Sense radio show with host Dr. Broderick, Wednesdays 7 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave Media Network and TuneIn Radio. And to help support the Broderick Foundation, please go to EasySense.com and learn how, with your help, we can fight these horrific brain disorders. That's EasySense.com to learn more and help support the Broderick Foundation. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them. We discover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
And welcome back to The Soul's Journey. I am your host, Tracy Escobar, evidential psychic medium, right here on Bold Brave TV Network. And we are bringing back my guest on addiction, Miss Lulu. Come on back, Miss Lulu. Yay! Thank you. Before we went off to hear from our sponsors, we were talking about your last time coding and all of the paramedics being there, and you were more concerned about them taking their shoes off. Where did that come from?
I don't know. I wonder if that reflects
the time, and please take your shoes off in my house.
Yeah, the humor of my spirit. And I remember they said, no, ma'am. And I said, well, don't you have those booty things you can wear?
You see?
And I just passed out. And my kids thought it was the funniest thing, you know. And I mean, there's still a little bit of like just feeling inside, you know. I'm very open with them, and you know, if they wanted to talk to me, I imagine in their bodies they probably felt a little bit of fear, and that makes me sad, you know. So who knows, right? I mean, they were still too young to remember. I know their nervous systems have a memory, and so we'll just see, right? Very open to that.
Yeah, and we talked about this too. It's happening in my family, and for some reason, and I think about my issues didn't come out to my 30s, so I don't know if that's a pivotal age for trauma to surface, or I don't.
Well, life gets busier. I mean, you have a relationship, you have a household, you have children. Like, you know, all these things are actually stressors in our life because we are trying to juggle everything, a job, right? Like
everything, I mean, right? I was a soccer mom. I was taking everybody. Yeah. So I can vividly go back to being in my early 30s, starting to, all right, my childhood wasn't as hunky-dory as I thought it was, right?
Because a lot of times people have this, you know, stigma and addiction that you have to be homeless on the street, you know? You can be Frisco housewife and have a drinking problem, right? And it doesn't say anything about anything. It's just what it is.
It's just what it is. Yeah. Yes. Crazy. So we could talk about your story forever, but was that the last time you coded?
Yeah.
Is that what made you change? What made you go back?
Right. I had 4 children, and here I am in the psych ward.
I'm married at that time, right? Were you still married at that time?
I was still married at the time, psych ward. And I'm like, oh my gosh, right? I mean, the shame, the guilt, right?
What did your husband say? Was he supportive? Was he not at that time?
Yeah, I mean, he was doing the best that he could do.
Good. I know. And no fault of their own, right? They're
Yeah.
stuck in a
And so,
hard
I mean, and so there's a period of 8 months actually that I actually went to 5 different treatment centers, because I was just scared of life. It's like I would do well in recovery because when you're in treatment center, you're just there. And I like, AWOL from a couple of them too. I'm like, I'm not doing this. Right. And it was a lot
right.
of the physical stuff, like being physically, it was so hard.
Ill.
Your body at 30 is not your body at 20, and
Wow.
recovery was miserable, right? I mean, everything hurt for a long time. And I really get that, I don't, it's hard to explain like the intensity of how painful it is in your body.
Even your muscles hurt, your body hurts,
Yes.
your
And the
joints hurt.
trajectory doesn't look like this. Okay. It is like, you feel like it's a hell. It's a living
Yeah.
hell, right?
Where one little substance can make it all go away.
Exactly.
And that's
Exactly.
the cycle, right? You're like, oh my Lord.
So
How
it
long
was
were you in
really
treatment?
hard, how long was I in treatment? Well, every
Yeah, the
time
last
it was
time.
30 days, but I went to 5 different
5
ones,
of them.
right?
Okay, so 30 days each
Towards
time.
the end, they were like, I think you're trying to evade your life. I'm like, maybe. Get
I gotta
out
go
and
home and face the
do,
music.
yeah. And it was just a really difficult time, right? I mean, for the family, it was hard,
Yeah.
and I wanted to touch on loving an addict because I've also been on the other side where I've been in a relationship with somebody, I'm clean and
Oh,
sober, where they're
loving.
also in addiction. And because I always think, is there anything anyone could have said or done differently that would have made it any better, right? And I don't know, because what I do remember even now is like all those people that gave me grace, right?
Yeah,
That
thank God.
loved my essence, that loved me regardless. And it doesn't mean they don't have boundaries, right? Because boundaries really are an act of love. They say, I want
It
to
is.
preserve the relationship, and these are the things that I require for my own safety,
Yeah.
because it's
Yeah.
really difficult, not just for the person going through it, but for the other people, right? And I've been on both
It's,
sides, and it's heartbreaking, right, when you're powerless over somebody
but that
else.
but that
In a
gives you good
way,
perspective, right?
and in a way, it's the same thing. Like people that go to AA or they go to Al-Anon, it really is a powerlessness over something. You're either powerless over the drug or you're powerless over the person that's doing the drug. Again,
Ah,
universal conundrum, right? And so it makes us think, I talked about like soul plans, like, right?
yeah.
Did we choose
Yeah.
this? Because I learned lessons too when I was the person loving someone that couldn't get sober. I
It's
needed to learn
true.
some boundaries. I needed to learn how to love myself. I needed to learn I wasn't responsible for somebody else, right?
I love that. Yeah. Yeah. I love
It's the
that. So
same
part of your
thing.
yeah, part of your experience included loving someone like you.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. But then you also got empathy from it and knowledge from it, right?
Exactly.
Because so many people who are in this family dynamic think that's a choice. And yes, okay, we broke it down, it's a choice, but it's a really hard choice, right? And I had to learn because I have children too, and some of my children went on their own road of substance and issues and things like that. And as a mom, like I'm sure it's a scary thought, especially if there's some genetic and hereditary about what your children might end up going through. We all don't want our children to hurt. It's super painful.
But even genetics, right? So a lot of it
Yeah.
is something called epigenetics, right? So actually, our genes will change expression based on our environment. So look that
Okay.
up, right? And so it's kind of like when
Okay.
people say genetics, it's really there's
Yeah.
very little actually that's actually
Genetic.
genetics,
Like
right?
DNA genetic, right?
Right. So when you're in an environment, and let's say it's very toxic, and you're receiving, it changes our gene expression. Okay.
Okay.
This is
Okay.
why energy, right? Words are important. The things that we tell ourselves. You can heal yourself by telling yourself your cells are healthy, you know? And
That's
I'm so
gene expression. Okay.
right.
See, I just learned something new. Yeah.
Yeah,
Always
look
a
up
student.
epigenetics. It's this whole thing. You know?
Epigenetics.
Which is
I'm
really
gonna
hopeful
learn.
because sometimes people just like, put themselves in a box, be like, oh, this is a thing. But it's not just the gene, it's also the environment, it's the word, it's so many things, right?
So it could go hand in hand with generational trauma because if you're not fixing the generational trauma, the same traumas are still happening, which becomes your environmental
Yeah.
sense. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah, it does make sense. Yeah.
Because it was really interesting for me, and I'm going to tell you why it was so interesting. My father was adopted. So I have a father and aunt who were adopted out. And fast forward probably 10 years ago, through the power of the internet and through Facebook, my aunt found siblings, and there happened to have been 19 of them who were all but 3 were adopted out. So we're talking, yes, born into the same genetics, however, adopted out into different environmental families, right? What a great thing to study based on addiction.
Yeah,
But it
there
was
are actually studies. Yeah.
right, but it was surprising to me to go to that. We had a big family reunion so we could all meet everybody and to walk around and the addiction that you could see
Mhm.
through all the families.
Right.
Now, some made it out of it and were okay, and they were preachers, right? Because
Right.
they were, all of my aunts and uncles were given, most of them, to like church people. So that was
Right.
kind of their ploy. But so many were addicts, so many addiction.
Mhm. And
So it's
really, I
fascinating.
break it down to sort of in our nervous system and chemically, right? There is a predisposition because even the things that mothers say or their stress hormones when they're pregnant also influence the nervous system of the growing
Mhm.
fetus, right? So you're
Okay,
talking
there
about
you go.
intergenerational trauma, how we cope with life, right? Like how our
Yeah,
nervous systems are coping, you
yeah,
know, for
yeah.
sure. Yeah.
How are your kids with you today?
They're good. I mean, they know this part of me. Sometimes it's surprising. I mean, they kind of laugh about it. They're like, "My mom was in jail. She shaved her head. She has tattoos. And she used to be a drug dealer." And I don't know. Like they laugh about it again. Like who knows if it's a coping? I'm very open with them, and whenever they want to, if they want to have this conversation about it, you
You're gonna
know,
do that when they're
really
ready.
good choices. I'm so
Mhm.
lucky. I mean,
Mhm.
they really do. I do want to say that part of recovery um, is fellowship, right? The opposite of addiction is not recovery; it's sobriety. It's connection. When people come
Okay.
into my office, as a therapist, it's really hard for us because we really encourage them to get involved in fellowship and community, right? To share their story, to have this relational repair, right?
Okay.
Because it's very lonely, but it's very necessary because otherwise it will be very lonely. You
It'd be
know?
very lonely. Yeah. Did
Yeah.
it ruin relationships for you, your addiction?
Um, I guess not the ones, right, that really were there.
Matter. Yeah. Yeah.
There was
Yeah.
always, like I said, I was given a lot of grace. There was
Good.
always a part of me and my spirit that always came out, even in my addiction, right? I didn't ever want to hurt people, which of course made it very lonely for me, right? I was much an isolator.
I was gonna
You know,
say, did you isolate? Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
I'd be, there's a saying that's kind of like, I'll steal your drugs and help you find them, right? So I didn't want anyone to know that anything, I didn't want to hurt anybody.
You didn't want to hurt anybody.
Yeah.
Oh, so your spirit still came out.
Yeah, my
Yeah.
spirit, right? But,
Yeah.
and I want to say that when people think of recovery, it really is just one day at a time, right? Like little steps matter, right? And it feels like it's going to be slow, but it's actually really quick. Having seen so many people in the recovery rooms, like in just a year, I mean, it's miraculous things happen. I mean, huge shifts
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, when
Yeah.
people just do one step at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me about that. Tell me about your first year out of rehab. How was it?
Oh my God, that was so funny because I remember my first year out at rehab, right? It's like not just about sobriety, like you have to clean up your life, and I had a warrant for my arrest that I didn't even know about. So my first, right. So I got arrested one time when I took my kids and my whole family to Mexico, and I got arrested on the cruise ship back, right? And I was like, I didn't even know I had this warrant. It was like 2 years old. I didn't even know that it was there, right? So I laugh about it because my first year in sobriety was like, okay, I lost my professional license, right? I got
Did you?
filed with 5 lawsuits. I got arrested,
Girl.
warrant. I was like, but I'm freaking sober, guys. So, and it was just a so
You know
absurd,
what?
funny thing because like I'm cleaning up my
But is
life,
it?
right?
Yeah, but is it? I sometimes think spirit still comes at you to see, okay, are you really done this time? Right?
Right. Here's your
I
humility.
do.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. Let me test the waters. Are you sure you're done? Because we're gonna give you everything to make you go back and do it again, just to make
Right.
sure this time you meant it.
Yeah.
Like, I
And
don't
I'm
know.
like,
I feel it.
okay. But I had a good community around me, and
Good.
it's funny because you hear so many funny stories. And it's really cool, again, getting involved with people because we share stories in this funny, lighthearted way. You know what I mean? Take
Yeah.
the shame out of it, because it's like we're not consciously
Oh,
choosing to
to
hurt
be
people.
me.
We're not consciously
No.
choosing to do this.
Oh. What
Yeah,
license did you lose? Sorry, I'm going to be nosy.
pharmacy.
Oh,
So
you're a
I was
pharmacy
sick and
tech?
worked in the pharmacy. Yeah. So that helped me
Oh,
realize, which doctors were easy prescribers, right? So it
I
was a whole
see.
big thing. I'm telling you, I'm going to write a book one day, people, and you will hear all the stories.
And it would be fascinating. You got to put your stuff out there. You really, really do. We need to take another break, but when we come back, Lulu's going to share with us, how to heal, what's happened to her on the other side of healing, what she does now. So stay tuned and come back so she can share that with us. You're watching Bold Brave TV, The Soul's Journey. We'll be right back.
What if there were a super tiny device that could diagnose the brain and is smaller than a single human hair? What if you could see inside the brain to help an epilepsy patient during surgery or to help the fight against Parkinson's disease? Dr. Patricia Broderick is proud to announce the Broderick Probe, a biomedical and electronic breakthrough. Imagine a probe to help with the understanding and potential cure of brain-related diseases. To learn more, listen live to the Easy Sense radio show with host Dr. Broderick, Wednesdays 7 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave Media Network and TuneIn Radio. And to help support the Broderick Foundation, please go to EasySense.com and learn how, with your help, we can fight these horrific brain disorders. That's EasySense.com to learn more and help support the Broderick Foundation. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
Hi, welcome back to The Soul's Journey on Bold Brave TV. I am your host, Tracy Escobar, evidential psychic medium, and I have Lulu on the show today as a guest who is talking about all things addiction. And we're finally to the point of the show that we want to talk about where are you at now? What are you doing now? How did you heal? How did you overcome? All the good stuff.
Yes, just step by step, right, a day at a time.
Yeah,
Started
for sure.
to make different choices. Again, just divine intervention, and all of a sudden, again, connection is so important. So anyone who's struggling with addiction, like, please reach out, right? And so it really requires a lot because you have to have rigorous honesty, right, about all your behavior,
Mm-hmm.
and open mindedness to try something different. There's people who are alcoholics and addicts, we're very stubborn. Okay. So you got to have some open-mindedness and some willingness to try something different. Right. You know,
Right.
seeing that, because right when you're in it, you don't have perspective. Right. And so you have to see that there's pain. The pain and the suffering is the gateway. It is
Yeah.
the portal to your freedom. Right. That know that there's a part of you inside that is untouched by trauma, your wounds, or your hurts. Right. Keep seeking communities, people, practices, breath work, yoga, meditation, mindfulness, find a dancing, rolling around in the grass, being playful, singing, right?
Right.
Find your joy, I
Yeah.
would say, like, training your mind to notice the glimmers, right? And that's about savoring it, right? We savor all the BS by ruminating about all the crap in our minds. So you got to learn and actually try to savor some of the good stuff, right? Like, the
Yeah.
sheets feel amazing. I can breathe. I have legs. We take for granted so much, and gratitude really is the thing that's going to change about everything about how you experience life,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And you came out of that. Is that part of why you started your practice? Like why are you doing what you're doing now?
Yeah, it was this shift in perspective. It's like, wow, I have so many perspectives that
Uh-huh.
I in life now right? That
Yeah.
I can actually sit with someone and say, hey, here's a doorway. I know you feel like, there's no doorway here, right? And most of
Yeah.
the times people just want to be heard, right? What does Maya Angelou say? The greatest agony is a story untold, you know?
Beautiful.
So really just sitting there and being witnessing somebody be able to share this and being able to hold their pain, because I'm not having that same fear in my body about what they're going through because I understand it.
Yeah.
It really does help people heal. I encourage people to find a somatic therapist, right? Or just some somatic practice, right? So again, we learn the same theme. We really need to learn how to be in our bodies, right?
Yeah.
I teach at a treatment center every week, and we just do these somatic exercises because again, this addiction is that the present life is unbearable. I need to
Yeah.
escape it. So how do we
Escape
do
it.
that? We learn how to
Yeah.
be in it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
What holistic therapy? So what does your practice do? So what is your holistic
Yeah,
therapy?
so holistic
Right.
therapy is really that it's like I'm licensed as a professional counselor, but I don't do
Okay.
traditional talk therapy, right? I honestly believe
Okay.
that yes, our beliefs are important. The things that you tell yourself, right? Those are the most important words you're ever going to hear. The ones that you tell yourself. Okay.
Mhm.
And I encourage people to write a story about your life that's empowering and meaningful, right? Not egotistical, but empowering, right? Be
Empowering. Yeah.
delusional about it, because when you're telling yourself that you can't or you're a piece of crap, you're also being a delusional. So if you're going to lie to
Right.
yourself, then you might as lie to yourself better and tell yourself something empowering,
There you go. I love that. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Sure.
right, there's belief system there, but a lot of somatic, so body oriented work, nervous system regulation, somatic experiencing, therapeutic yoga, Reiki. Again, I view everything as energy, right? Reiki
Okay.
work, vibrational sound healing, breath work. Breath work is amazing because it's a way that we actually can clear these energetic imprints that get trapped in our bodies from our trauma,
Oh.
right? And I know your
Okay.
guest next week is going to talk a lot about that, right? And so
Yes.
when things happen, it's like these imprints that get stuck in our bodies. And it's like every
Yes.
time something happens, these get triggered and we respond with the same defenses that we did when it happened.
Erection. Right.
Right.
Erections. Yes. Yes.
Right. And so when it's difficult for us to be in our bodies, we actually go into overthinking, right? Overthinking and overanalyzing is a trauma response.
That is
We
trauma
justify, we
response.
explain, we say
Yeah.
it's my star sign. I don't know.
Yeah, we do. It's so fascinating. And where are you based out of?
Dallas, Texas. Yeah.
Here in Dallas,
Oh my
Texas.
God. So
Cool.
I meant to have my whole website. Like, I know I was like, this is my goal and my course contact up, but it's not up yet. But people can follow me on Instagram, infinite_heart_healing. I got a new
Okay.
assistant. She's on top of it. So this next month, we're going to have courses rolling out about embodied wisdom, cultivating somatic capacity, inner child healing from a parts perspective. Videos on breath work. And I have events around DFW about breath work, things like
I
that.
love
So,
you. We'll have to get
yeah.
together. I was thinking of doing an inner child healing workshop, so maybe that's something
Heck
you can
yeah. It is
partner
about
on
that. We do need to
together.
reparent ourselves, I mean, and that's why it's
Yeah.
really important to also find people that are supportive of you, right?
Yeah.
That want to see you win, that see your successes. There's so much competition and undermining with this lack and fear energy, but it's abundant, right? So everything is energy, and surrounding yourself with people that have good energy.
Agree. It's been such a pleasure to have you. Can you believe we're done? We're over.
No,
The
I feel like we
time
talked
is
forever,
done.
right?
I said we need a longer podcast. When you first start doing these, you're like, oh my God, I gotta talk for an hour. And now like, oh wait, don't leave me yet.
Yeah. So I really
Well,
hope it was
definitely,
helpful. I mean, for anyone to
yeah,
reach out, like, know
that's
that
the
you're not
goal.
alone. Yeah,
You're
that
not
there is.
alone. And I
Yeah.
hope someone learned something from this because it's about educating people, right? And getting rid of the stigma behind it all. But thank you for being on the show. You can follow Lulu on her Instagram. What was her Instagram again?
Infinite_heart_healing.
Infinite_heart_healing. So go
That's right.
follow. She's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful soul.
Thank
Thank you
you.
guys for joining me and watching. We will be on again next Friday. Come so fast. And next Friday is going to be really interesting. We're going to talk about abandonment and healing. And we have a really special guest coming on next Friday as well. So you won't want to miss it. Again, you're watching The Soul's Journey on Bold Brave TV Network. I am your host, Tracy Esquire, and we will see you again next time. Take care.
This has been The Soul's Journey with your host, Tracy Escobar. Tune in each week and be inspired through the voices of those living the journey and those who have already passed on. Fridays, 5 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave TV network.